One, there are people, if you look at the trend of giving, there are people who start giving very well, and then there are people who give and skip, which means they get impatient. They give and they don't see rewards. They give with the expectation that God will bless them. And when they wait for long without getting any blessings, they say, after all, the economy is so hard, let me just use this money.
Yeah. And the Lord will understand.
And then they end up using God's money.
And the Lord will understand.
And the Lord will understand. That is
Lastly, Elder.
I think also it's because of lack of knowledge and misplaced priorities. There are those who think that why should I give now? I can as well give next time.
Yeah.
So their priorities are upside down.
Yeah. Must I give this Sabbath? Must I give this month? Is it a must? Where is it that it is a must I give this month? As long as I've given, I can give once in a year. Yes, the Lord has not said come every month. You know, people can find fault. These are some of the reasons I found. I hope somebody was noting those points. Very important points. Lack of employment. I don't have an employment. And somebody can justify himself. No, sin occurs. So where do you want I should keep from? I have many commitments. I take a child to school. The other day I had medical bills. There was a bereavement. My family what do you call the next of what? The extended family are depending on me. We said the other day our child for private school. So where do you think, well, as a church, where do you think I will get that extra money? Yeah, and you know you'll hold back. You'll not continue arguing with him because he's given you facts. He took the child to school. It's not a fiction fact. He's paying some substantial amount of money. The bill, you know. There is also misuse of funds in church. Yeah, we know they steal this money. So let us protect our cost money. So the best place to protect money is to retain. And if they steal from your house, how will you protect it? Or if they steal from your bank? The other day, the bank, there was these banks who were closing down. And the people with over 50,000, they were told to wait, while those who were 50,000 and less, they were just going to cash. So how will you protect that one now? You have taken that money to the bank to be safe, and somebody smarter than that has gone to the bank. The best safety place for God's money is his storehouse. Let a daring thief come and steal in God's vineyard. Let him put his hand in that coffer, even if he was not seen or even if he was seen. Lastly, is that we say, I have never received. What Moses was saying, I have not been blessed. Yeah, I toil. Here to nile kibarua. Yeah, and I have not been promoted. In fact, I was nearly sacked. So you want me to give, and then mambo ikiharibika, where do I go? And of course, I am not convinced. Yes, I am not convinced that I should give. Yeah. So, you know, you cannot listen, especially to challenge God. Now let us look at some ways the Lord has asked us to be a solution. And actually this is the theme of God's plan for his church. So God's concerns are very valid. One can stand, even pastor, he cannot come and say, the last point I think we are exempted. They are so obvious. They don't even need an audit. But now, in the same breath, the Lord says, okay, this is going on. This is what you can do. The first solution is a twin solution. And actually I was saying, we are looking at thieves in two categories. There is a thief that withholds, and there is a thief that takes the return. Two categories of thieves. The unfortunate thing is that there are many thieves in the first category, and there are very few in the second category. Those who dare to steal in church can be counted. Yeah, even when this church was started, you can count them. But those who have withhold, there has been a turnover, membership turnover. So they withhold here, they go. You may not trust them. So the Lord says, very simple, bring all that is required. If we do this, we have no problem in this church, and you have no problem with the Lord. How does the Lord say? Bring all the tithes into the storehouse, And the storehouse, my brethren, the storehouse is not your bank account. The storehouse is not a children's welfare. Storehouse is not Skiswa. The storehouse is not going to the food kitty. The food kitty for the national being led by Red Cross. If you donate to Red Cross, you have done a very good thing, but you have not given to the storehouse. Let it come to the storehouse. Let KCF donate to Kenya, whatever, Red Cross. It is the work of KCF. You can go ahead and after you have given to the storehouse. So bring all the money to the storehouse. Why? So that there is enough food. You know, the food the Lord says here are twofold. Your pastors are complaining to their employer that they are not receiving enough money. And that complaint does not go well with the Lord. Because majority of you are doing well, while those who are doing the sacred work are not doing very well, because you have not given. You are not told to give so that they become luxuriously whatever, but you are told to give your portion. So if there is a faithfulness portion you have withheld, you are causing strife, you are causing misunderstanding in our higher offices. Because they will complain, pastors don't keep quiet. Pastors, will you keep quiet when you don't get enough money? No, they don't keep quiet. And they rightly, because they see, they see the money. They see Elder JB, Elder Mdu are doing well. And they wonder, why are they not supporting the Lord? So, and it goes on to say, actually there are three things here. The Lord will bless our crops, our grapes, and the land. And it says, I will open the windows of heaven for you, and I will pour out blessings so great that you won't have enough room to take it in. Try it. Let me prove it to you. Your crops will be abundant, for I will guard them against insects and diseases. The other day there was an insect infestation in the North Rift and some parts of, I think, northeastern. And I could think this is the reason. But why are those insects coming in the first place? The Lord is saying He's going to protect them. So when they are roaming around destroying crops, they must be related. They must be related to our stewardship. Yeah, insects don't just arrive. They are arriving as a warning and a punishment. So, brethren, if you come from those areas, you better tell your kinsmen to do something so that the Lord can protect them. Of course, the government will come and spray them, and they will come again next season. But if the Lord protects them, they will not come. They will not come because there is a boundary. The Lord's command cannot be broken. Even the sea itself here. So that's for the crops. The crops says, your grapes will not ripen before they are ripe, says the Lord. We were dealing with mangoes in Tana River, and this season, most of them are potting. Those who come from mango areas. You have seen the mangoes are not doing well. Yeah, so they are potting. And what could be the reason? Climate change, Maybe. But according to the Lord, it is because the Lord has not protected them. So they are not doing the way they should be. You have put your fertilizers, there's slight rain, mist, and it says, your land, the third one, then all the nations will call you blessed, for your land will be such a delight. We were looking at the people who visit many places, and France was leading with 77 million people in a year visiting France, and you wonder, what are they going to see there? Maybe France is doing something that the Lord make people look at their land as a favor. Actually, people who visit Israel are more than those who come to Kenya, because they want to see where the Lord was and the rest, but they also, of course, they are not following. So the Lord is saying, if you do this, your land, the migration, they call it wildebeest migration, will be a constant phenomenon. The River Mara will not dry up, because you are supporting the Lord, and the Lord says, let the nature be blessed in your land. So people will come, but there are some countries who are fighting very hard with their tourism industry to bombard people with marketing strategies. But the best marketing strategy is to serve the Lord, and the Lord will bring them. That's what He said. Yeah. I will cause them to see your land as a delight. Now that is for us, which we are not stealing from the Lord physically church, but not giving. Those who come and steal in the church. Ephesians chapter 4 verses 28 says, this is a very important verse. It says, if you are a thief, the wisdom, the counsel of the Lord says, stop stealing and begin using your hands for honest work and then give generously. In other words, transform your trade so that we don't have stealers, but we have generous people. Can you imagine if everybody was generous? Although many of us aspire to be shortcut, and that leads to stealing. So the Lord is saying, bring everything. And for those of you who bring and steal, you know, it's very interesting. Somebody can bring it, and then he adds to his pocket again. I don't know. The Lord has very serious things to deal with. So bring everything, and in case you are involved, stop stealing and give. In fact, you should actually give more like Zacchaeus. Was it Zacchaeus? Who was that disciple of Jesus? He gave 4 times. Because actually he has been stealing. He has been multiplying the tax and grossly overstating them, threatening people, and people will give because they know there will be dangerous times. But he realized he was doing the wrong thing. He had to give back 4 times. Now, as we come towards conclusion, it says, God desires we do the impossible. And we want to see 3 people who did the very impossible. This one, and I'm not preaching this gospel because it may not be easily accepted. He says, he wants to see who among us is returning all the blessings the Lord has given him. Who can bring his salary for the whole year and as a thanksgiving? I'm not asking anybody to do that, but in case you are faithful enough and you want to challenge your Lord, you can do something. Let's look at 4 people, 3 people. And before we do that, these people did something here which is very interesting. The Lord is not looking at our wealth to see how much worth we are. The other time we saw the ministers in that ranking, and some of them were glaringly rich. Okay, there's no problem with that. The Lord is categorizing us that way. He's looking at our availability. So it is not our wealth, but we can respond to him. How can we respond? First person, Abraham. Let us quickly read this very interesting story. The book of Genesis 22 verse 2. Take your son, your only son, yes, Isaac, whom you love so much, and go to the land of Moriah. Sacrifice him there as a burnt offering on one of the mountains which I will point out to you. I suppose this was towards the evening. I want to read that text well, but I suppose it was not early in the morning, because it says early next morning. If this was told to Abraham early enough, you will have gone that day. And can you remember, he's walking to go to sacrifice Isaac, which is unthinkable. So early next morning, he saddled his donkey and took 2 of his servants with him, along with his son Isaac. Then he chopped wood to build a fire for a burnt offering, set out for the place where God had told him to. At that moment, I'm just jumping, at that moment when he was nearly sacrificing Isaac, then at that moment the angel of the Lord shouted in heaven. Actually, the angel had no time to come to earth. And you can see how fast they can do that. But he had no time, because it was becoming. Abraham was going to be more faithful than the Lord in quotes. So he had to be stopped. Not from doing it in a bad way, but by doing it excessively. Actually, Abraham was becoming excessive. So the Lord has to stop him, and he says, for now, I know that you truly feared me. And also, I know you cannot withhold even your beloved son from me. So the Lord had to quickly stop Abraham from doing the unthinkable. My question is this, church. Can really God come and help you from supporting the church, or he will have to wait for you forever to support the church. It would be better if the Lord, maybe through pastor, through who, say, no, Elder JB, please, I think please go slow. Yes. Go slow. Or Gladys, please, I think you are becoming too generous. But it is the opposite. We always ask people, where is a generous person? Where is this money small? Abraham was not even dealing with money. He was dealing with something dear to his heart. And he did not wait. He was told, and early the next morning he went. And actually the whole heaven was actually disturbed with peace, with happiness. It was a commotion that even there are rare cases the Lord speaks from heaven. I think the other one was when he was talking about Ismail. There are rare cases the Lord speaks from heaven. But he had to do this for Abraham. Why? Because Abraham did the unthinkable. And Abraham is called the father of faith on this ground. That was Abraham. So we are looking at the case the Lord pushes somebody to give. Let us look at a case whereby they are not even pushed to give. The poor widow, Mark chapter 12, verse 42. Then a poor widow came and dropped in 2 pennies. Verse 43. He called his disciples to him and said, I assure you, this poor widow has given more than all others have given. For they gave a tiny part of their surplus. While poor as she is, she gave everything. Remember, we are talking of the Lord saying, do the impossible. It was so impossible for this lady because after giving, she didn't know what to do. It's like giving your rent. And you know your landlord will come after you. But all the same, because there was a promotion and a must to be done in Kalwembe, and people need evangelism, you say, I want to sacrifice my rent this time. I am not sure. I'm also not talking about myself. I'm not sure. But the Lord knows. I'm not sure whether we can go that direction. But somebody, this is not now about the church. It's about you. So the poor lady gave everything. The Lord did not impress her, maybe through the Holy Spirit, but physically like Abraham. She was not commanded. But she watched the way Jesus was doing things, and she could say, I want to invest in this man's business. The last one. Okay, let us relate. Maybe you think that was an isolated incident. Paul, when he was going around in 2 Corinthians chapter 8, verse 1 says, now I want to tell you, dear brethren and sisters, what God in his kindness has done for the churches in Macedonia. What? Though they have been going through much trouble and at times, I think this is more than Corona. During Corona, Pastor, we were preaching a gospel here that, it's hard times. It is hard time. People, our tithes are gone low because it's so hard time. I think that's not the right gospel. Hard times does not mean that when you are earning 3,000 and they have reduced it to 5,000, you are not being obliged to give 2,000. You are being obliged to give 500 shillings. So whether it is hard time or good time, the standard is the same. So I think, but of course, we are talking from experience. Christianity is the hard thing with Christianity is when you mix it with experience and you say, people walk to place of war, and they actually did. People chumped meals. But that should not be an excuse. This lady, apart from that, she ate nothing else to live on. So the Lord, it says, for I can testify that they gave not only what they could afford, but far more. Mzee will come in few weeks' time and with a camp meeting call. And people, they will just measure. Tutake to make pisana to patia to 90%, 98%, they will not exceed. If they exceed, it will be 1%. Last year it was 99 point. So these brethren, I know it can be a laughing matter, but it's so serious. So the Macedonians, they gave what they were supposed to give, they exceeded it, but the last part is that they were not coerced. So when Paul met the call, they saw the sense, but they went further. And Paul actually came and collected a sacrificial offering without making any other plea. Why? Because the Macedonians were poor people, but they were very rich in the Lord. Lastly, the famous lady. And if you want the Lord to appreciate you, think on what Mary did. So, of course, I think this church knows the background of Mary. Sindio? Daniel, what was the background of Mary? A good person, eh? You see, a very bad person, which you cannot identify with. A prostitute, to be precise. So Mary, in John chapter 12, verse 3 says, then Mary, the story is long, to cut it short, then Mary took 3/4 of a pound of expensive aromatic oil. Not just an aromatic oil. Actually, people were expecting to be 110, 20,000 and above that time. I think these days could be 1 million and something. And you know, that fragrant smell spread around. And actually, it was not only Judas who was complaining. The 111 were also complaining. Today, I think there's a lot of wastage today. Can you imagine just pouring only to the feet of Jesus? So indignant behavior. They wanted to sympathize with Mary, and Mary is not sympathizing with herself. They wanted to see that she has done favor to Jesus, and Jesus is not seeing that favor. She is seeing why Mary is doing it. So what is the point? Jesus had to come in and say, Jesus replied, leave her alone. Please, wachana na Mary. If you don't have anything to do, please keep quiet, come and sit down. The sermon is over, please go home. Don't start saying, hey, siku hizi watu wanachikamba seni. They go with heavy, they send with M-Pesa. If the treasurer is saying, hey, these people nowadays wanna rusha pesa. It is not your business, my friend. You cannot measure what the Lord is given, you cannot cage it, and you cannot prevent it. So the Lord said, leave her alone, and people, leave anybody who is giving an offering, leave him alone. If their family is poor and he has decided to give to the Lord, leave them alone. And if the family is rich and he has decided to support the Lord and is not supporting the seemingly poor around, leave him alone. He is seeing the poor, and actually when he brings here, it's the church to see that poor and support it even a larger extent. And it says, Jesus, verse 13, I tell you the truth, wherever this gospel is proclaimed in the whole world, what she has done will also be told in memory of her. So the gospel is going hand in hand with what Mary did. What I'm saying is that what we do with offering has eternal implication or consequences. And this is how it can be. So you can decide today, you went to Somali, you are from KDF, you are sacrificing your life, and you are given some hardship allowance. Should you bring that hardship allowance, or you want to develop a property for your children? Because when you go next time, you never know. You cannot be sure. It says you can do both, but start with the Lord. Try the Lord, trust the Lord, and even be an example. We are able to read this because somebody did it. Otherwise, we could be reading only the promises and the commands of the Lord. But we are now reading a practical lesson from people. Actually, there was a time, I think I posted this sometimes back. Pastors were complaining and they went to the government and say, I think people are not giving tithe. Please help us. Help us track people, give tithe. So they were seeking external assistance from the government. But I don't know whether they will succeed. So do you want pastor to go to KRA to start caging your income? I don't think you want us to go that way. So please give before pastors do the extraordinary things. But of course, I think our pastors are sober enough. They will pray instead of going that direction. Okay. Now, all this we are talking about is that we want, the Lord is telling us the first one, let us bring this money all up to the church. Secondly, there is something called systematic benevolence. This aspect has not been understood well in the church. It is actually one of the least preferred subjects. But all the same, this is what systematic benevolence means. Systematic is you do it in a planned manner. What Muse was saying, you don't give it in the month of January, and you stay until there is a very big crusade and you give it again. That is not systematic. In fact, that's sporadic. So systematic is that whether there is an activity in church or not, whether there is demand of money or not, give it as you are able. Not as they are demanding to use it, but as you are able to give it. If you don't need it, they will be in the storehouse. And it will be like that time of Joseph. So systematic is, and it is not in your own way to determine systematic. It is the church to determine and then sell it to you. Systematically, he starts applying the systematic way in their order. So when my income is steady, for example, I earn 50,000, so I am expected to give 5,000 for tithe, and I'm expected to give 5,000 for 10,000. So I'm okay. That is so systematic. But now, that is legalistic in nature. Now let us look at benevolence. It's called systematic benevolence. So benevolence is a behavior. It's a behavior arising from your heart, pity, arising from the way you don't want somebody to feel excluded. So it is saying it is the act of generosity. Actually, if you use the word generosity is enough. Somebody who wants to keep more because there could be a lack somewhere, or maybe a brethren has not given, so I should cover. Are you getting it? So if the church was expecting 10 million and some people did not give, then if only we wait for the faithful and they give only faithfully, that is 10%, then we'll only get some 8 million, we'll still have a lack. But if somebody was wise enough, generous enough, he can give a little bit extra and he will cover the rest. Are you getting it? So that is benevolence. So what is systematic benevolence? It is that system whereby we are generous enough to follow what the church has said. And maybe I should ask this. What has the church said about systematic benevolence to people? Kinky. What does the church demand us of systematic benevolence? In your own words. Okay. How can I determine you are systematically benevolent? How, from the treasury point of view?
The way you just explained it should be consistent.
Okay.
It should be consistent that I give today, next church time I give again, and I continuously.
Okay.
It's normal for me to give.
It's normal, okay.
Yes.
Okay. Lastly, who is that? Wycliffe. Systematic benevolence, you want to explain it in addition to what Brother King has said?
Yeah, the only, in a simple terms, you say that you consistently give through a certain plan, not a case whereby within 3 months you wait. Let's say within 3 months, I want to give an example whereby you give first month, then come the end of third month, you give again. That is not systematic benevolence. What you should do is, if it is you are giving is per week or on a weekly basis, let it be seen weekly. And not only seen weekly, the same figure. Because you can also be giving weekly,
yes.
But this week or the Sabbath you have given, for example, 1,000. Next Sabbath you have given 5. Another Sabbath 200. Another Sabbath 50. So it should be consistent. If you are giving is per month, let it be the same figure every month.
Okay.
So that it can be tracked and seen in the treasury record that this person weekly normally gives this much on a monthly basis from January to December. That is what I consider as
So
systematic benevolence. Thank you.
Systematic part of it. First Elder. Lastly, a very words. I'm actually targeting First Elder because he will bear the greatest burden on these things. What is systematic benevolence? You can give us a figure if you have.
the way I understand systematic benevolence in respect to the church plans, the church can plan to have a collection in a pool. A pool to say, like now this church has EMR. We collect our money systematically, means we give always a particular amount per individual, but that money is put in a pool where now the church will plan its activities from. That is how I get it. We give our offerings, it is put in a pool, and the church plans how to use that money from that pool. Thank you.
Okay. Last Pastor. Actually, I wanted to avoid Pastor, but now that he has volunteered, please, Pastor, give us a office perspective of systematic benevolence.
Thank you. Simple. 10% tithe. 10 plus offering.
Yeah.
Simple like that.
Yeah. Actually, you have summarized. So actually, we have talked it well. Give always. Don't lag behind, especially when you are having a constant income. Don't reduce it. But Pastor has added something which is benevolence in it. You don't have to give 20% tithe. The Lord does not need 20% of your tithe. He only needs 10%. It's very categorical. The Lord is saying He's not in a business of getting rich from you. But He says, I know some pastor will come and tell you, where is the 10% you are talking about of offering? Where is it in the Bible? You know, that's a story for another day. But the church, in His own wisdom, the Lord says, you have denied Him tithes and offerings. He gave a definition for tithe, 10%. He left it the other one for you, but it's in the benevolence perspective. So generosity, it has to be minimum tithe, see you? If you are generous enough, it has to be minimum tithe. But the church is saying you can give 10% plus for other offering. Members, if we try this, I know we cannot do it today, maybe in 1 year, but if God allows us and we progressively move towards that, even in 10 years, you will see a difference. This church could be the only church in the whole planet which can hit this, and you will see the difference. Other people will come and do a case study here. But since we are in that movement, let us move towards there. So that is the thing. But systematic benevolence is related to stewardship. It cannot be done in a vacuum. So there must be somebody who is in charge of this process. And that's why in the field, we have a stewardship department. That's why in the church, we have a stewardship department. And that's why all of us are to be stewards. Now, what is this thing called stewardship? Stewardship is you have to be in charge of something. You take care of something. So this thing is actually time, talents, material, or wealth. But the greatest one is the one we are focused most is wealth. But of course, you have heard what Elder was saying about attending the training, attending time. You know, it is actually unsteward. It's actually unsteward to attend a training after time. In fact, it can be, the case can be that lady or those, the 5 ladies who came later and found the door has been closed, and of course they qualified, they had the lamps and everything, and they were there ready, only that they missed a small part of their time. So time is very important. Now, let us just see these people who are good stewards as we end. A good steward is somebody who is so selfless. He doesn't think of himself. He will not say, I think if I give the church, I will miss something for my family. We will not have a Christmas, a good Christmas. You know, our children are very serious. They want a good Christmas. While you bond and you say, surely January is coming and I want to indulge in Christmas, whatever. Are you getting that? So, selfish. But again, we have to do it continuously. Let us not do it once and for all. And so many things. But also, we have to be innovative. And I think what Pastor is saying is that we have to find a way of explaining to our members. Quickly, what are the good principles of giving? The first principle is principle of obedience. You know what the Lord say? Bring everything. So you either obey or you don't obey. That's the first principle. The second principle is what Joseph did. When you are in plenty, before Corona, please don't misuse your money. Keep them safe. It can help you, and you can still support the church even when there are problems. Be wise and try to think of the time of the times. Call it Joseph's principle. Joseph did well, 41:34, the one we read at the time. There is also the principle of generosity, the one we have mentioned. You can read this one for yourself. When they were building the tent, and told Moses, the people are bringing much more than is needed. Moses gave a target, and people were so excessive, like Abraham. They brought more until Moses had to tell this to the people. Let no man or woman do any more work for the offering. Stop it. Stop the giving. If that one is done in Gisingo, it will be top news. Yes, it will be current news. It will be in our WhatsApp. If people are stopped, they say, no, this is now too much. But the Lord is saying, if people can be stopped from giving, then we are nearer to heaven than before. And then the last one is the principle of small amounts. You heard that lady, we will not repeat it. It says, you don't have an excuse for not giving. Look at this. These are Israeli, this one is a philanthropist, while this other one is an editor. So he was interviewing the philanthropist called Sir Frank Lowy. So Frank Lowy was being asked, why are you giving out? And Frank, for your case, is not an SDA. And actually, most of the Israelis, they are very interesting. Despite the fact that the Lord really camped in Israel, they have not appreciated our Lord Jesus Christ. They only know that there's Yahweh and the rest. So this man says, when you have a little, give that little. When you have a lot, give a lot. He's a philanthropist. And he's doing excessively well in that area. So what does the Lord do? 3 things, and that's it. What does the Lord do when we give? Members, friends, don't be cheated that the Lord is doing other business when we are giving. In fact, He stops. He stops any other thing and watch when we are giving. You can believe this or you can choose not to. It says, Mark 12:41. Then Jesus sat down opposite the offering box. So if the offering box is here, say the deacons are, either he sits at the corner here and he doesn't watch people there, but he watches those who give. Literally and also spiritually, because right now he's not here to literally stand here, but he's still watching. The business of the Lord is to evaluate what you are giving. Why? He wants to see whether you are in partnership with Him. That's the first thing. But it doesn't stop there. When he sees somebody who has done extraordinary like that lady, he summoned the disciples and he summoned everybody. And maybe, Pastor, you need to, I don't know, maybe it is right. You need to identify one of these people who has done something unthinkable in this church. Because the Lord said, please, He called His disciples and said to them, I tell you the truth, this poor widow has put more into the offering than any of these other people. He was not despising their wealth, but he was not that supportive to the Lord than this lady. So the Lord appreciates people. Maybe we don't appreciate it by announcing, but He has His way of appreciating. Lastly, the Lord measures what you give. So, brethren, don't be cheated that when you give, the Lord sees you coming and humbly, no. He really knows what has He remained with behind at home. Was He really faithful? Which we cannot do it ourselves here. The treasurer is unable. So the Lord measures our giving on the 3 scales. The first scale is the scale of faithfulness. Is He really faithful? If not, of course, He will not be as kind as that lady or Abraham. He says in Matthew 25:21, his master answered, you remember the 5 talents, the 3 talents, the 1 talents? Well done, good and faithful slave. You have been faithful in small things, I now put you in charge of many things. The Lord really evaluates our giving. So, brethren, I think that's mine now. I think it is better not to give, but than to give what is not worthy. Don't you think so? Otherwise, the Lord will evaluate you further. If you don't give, then you are that category of those who are retained, and there will be no more evaluation. But if you just unadonesha hapo, then yako ni ngumu kidogo. And then lastly, look at this. When Mzee was mentioning, there are some people who are impulse, and they give back, and they go slow. So the first 2 months, they have given us a lot. That is intensity. They are so impulsive. But there is somebody who does not, and in fact, Mzee, if you find some people are not standing, and you are privy to their records, maybe they are not standing to give because they give anyway. Yeah, maybe they have decided in their heart that whether Mzee announces, whether pastor announces or not, I give. So pastors' announcement does not excite them because they are so consistent. They can only choose to be more generous. But even if they don't give, already they have satisfied that benchmark. In conclusion, what we are saying is that there is always positive influence on giving. And this is what again happened, Philippians 4:18. At the moment, Paul was saying, I have all I need. In fact, more than I need. I am generously supplied with the gifts you send me with Epaphroditus. They are sweet-smelling sacrifice that is acceptable to God and pleases Him. This is what happens when we give in the manner in which the Lord wants. It is His plan that His children will give to the point that even the Lord Himself is amazed. It is also His displeasure when we do it as if we want to punish the Lord. So generally, it is a smelling sacrifice. Sweet, in fact, he just put it rightly. Sweet smelling sacrifice. It's like that fragrance of Mary. Everybody acknowledge it. But they say, hey, but extravagance is not actually seen here. And I think it's not worthy. So, members, as we end, we are saying systematic benevolence is generosity plus a system you are using it. The Lord has concerns, but He provides instant solutions to our giving. But in that context, you can be a role model. You can be an Abraham of this day, even if you are not written in the Bible, but you'll be written in memories. The Lord said this gospel will be preached in line or together with what Mary did. Also, what you do to each church, it can be mentioned, even if not by name, but it can be mentioned that there are some people who have supported. I think you have heard even when Pastor, I remember when Pastor, former President, Pastor Yeri, when he comes here, he likes mentioning people. Do you think he mentions them for nothing? There must be something those people did which actually touched the heart of Pastor. Why has he not mentioned you? Yeah, because he has not seen. He has not seen your contribution. Maybe you are contributing, but it has not passed his line. Maybe Pastor Mure will mention you one day. So that is it. And lastly, is that God involves Himself in our business. It says, Ephesians 3:16, I pray that from His glorious unlimited resources. It's only that we don't give testimonies, brethren. But actually today I was nearly calling the first elder. I was in a place that it was becoming impossible for me to come here. But I thought, if I call Mzee, I will disappoint him. He will get disappointed and he will say, why didn't you tell me yesterday? So I waited. I wanted to call Daktari to be on standby. But I say, no. And then all of a sudden, there was a guy of our colleague who was going to the airport. And they had to rush to the airport so they can pick up 5 p.m. deadline. And I was saying, hallelujah. So I came with that person. And I came here at 4. I was in Mombasa. Can you imagine? So the Lord is not limited. The limitation is on our part. So in conclusion, members, I want us to, in random, let us try to, so actually 7:30 is the time. I think today I'm within the time. I want us to address 3 points. Anybody want to address a point? You can raise your hand, that I don't also randomly choose. If you don't raise your hand, I will choose some. So there is no, so please, if you want to say something, whichever of your choice, anybody who want to say something? Okay, then I go the choosing way. So, Senator Landubi will talk last. I will not choose him. Daktari has spoken. Maybe I will choose what to say. And then, who else has not spoken? You need to speak. Our good clerk is there. Who is the man there? The time speaks that. That is my friend. Is that? Is that Alex? Yeah. So the three of you choose what you want to say. Anita, which point are you taking? Number 1. Anita, number 1. Alex? Number 3? Number 3. And of course, you don't have a choice. Number 2. So let us start with number 3. So number 3, how can we improve and sustain our level of giving? Just in your own words. You can give 1 point, you can give 2 points, but let's try to see how we can sustain, improve and sustain 2 aspects.
I think the best way to improve and sustain our giving is by understanding why we are giving. The moment we understand, we'll be able to improve and sustain because we know we are giving for what purpose and to whom are we giving to or returning to. So we are able to sustain because we know what we are doing. But when we still doubt or we are not sure why we give, we don't have the mastery of the biblical principles of giving, then it will be very difficult to improve our giving.
Very well put. So if it becomes difficult to do this, is that not? Would you like to quickly add something now that you mentioned something? Maybe you mentioned something you nearly mentioned. Anybody? Okay. Number 2. That is Evelyn. Why should Seventh-day Adventist Church adopt systematic benevolence, not 10% tithe? Pastor, we have a problem in this church and in SDA. When people give tithe, they think they have solved themselves from responsibility. Bado. Evelyn.
I would say that first, we are told in Malachi that we bring tithe and offering. So it's not tithe alone. Tithe goes hand in hand with offerings. Secondly, we can take an example from God himself. God first gave. He gave us Jesus Christ. He left heaven empty. He did not withhold his only son. So as Christians, especially SDAs, we are supposed to give our all and not withhold anything from our Lord. Thank you.
Yeah. So be like your father. So if you are withholding, then definitely you don't need to go further. Then you are not like your father. Sindio? Yeah, because the father gave. There are some implied characteristics we can induce from what you do. Pastor?
I wanted to add that tithe we return. It belongs to God. It is not ours. So we just return. Giving is in offering. Are we together? That's when you feel the pinch. It is a sacrifice. But the tithe, you turn it to the honor. So if you are contented with saying, I've already done the tithe, then there's no need of offering. No. That love you have with your God is one thing. This offering is very, very key. Yeah. That's what I want to say.
Thank you, Pastor. So, tithe, we are nearly 90%. We are nearly 90% there. And you have not done much. Yeah, you have not done God a favor because that's a command. Please bring. But when you give offering, then you are moving closer to his thinking. Yeah, you are doing what God did with Jesus. You are doing what Abraham did to Isaac. You are like that lady. Yeah. And lastly, okay. Before Anita, let us have Daniel to add on that.
Thank you, Doc. There's something called decolonizing the mind. What do I mean? For a while in our church, it was elevated about the tithe thing. That is what would come up in. The other thing was, by the way, mentioned. So, as people come, and as pastors rightly said, that the sacrifice. What is the sacrifice? The other one is you got a responsibility. Then what is now my sacrifice to the Lord? So as we decolonize the mind to realize that this is what the Lord wants of us, and as many people realize this relationship, then we can be able to sell this one to the members and decolonize them from, this is what has been said before. People are stuck to it. You don't need them. Like your figures were showing that it is 2.7 times what people have. Why? There is something that is mentioned every time. So as we look about, yes, the 9 million, then we also want to see 9 million in this, so that they know that the sacrifice would be more than that 9 million. It would maybe 10 million plus.
10, yeah, you're right. Very right, sacrificial. Anita, number one?
I think we do not know God.
Yeah.
We do not know whom we serve. Hatumuamini Mungu, na we have an expectation. So if I know God said give 10%, and I try him and see what he will do, I have a specific blessing in my head that I would want God to give me. And if I don't get it, I feel like God is lying, and then I stop. The day we will know whom we serve, the day we will have faith in the blessings that God gives, and it's not monetary, then we will give.
Okay. So, Mzee and Pastor, whenever you see low tithe and low offering, it is more likely than not that we don't know God. We have only heard him, we may be having a glimpse of him, but knowing him as the God he is, that could be the problem. Anybody would like to go add something as I officially hand over to the coordinator of today as he takes up the program? You want to mention something, Mzee?
Yeah.
Please mention, and then after that you come.
Maybe, Elder, I wanted to observe that normally Kizingo is mentioned with the numbers. A church that has very many people. But then when you look at the treasury reports, you realize that normally weekly collections come from less than 300 people. And this happens Sabbath after Sabbath. If you took the record of those who came in, like the Corona time, when records were being taken at the entrance, you realize the record is bigger. And then I was looking at number 3, and I like Brother Alex says we need to understand. But then this is a small number that has attended today. That, how can we realize that? Large attendance, but the records of giving a smaller number in there. On the other hand, again, Daktari, there's someone who will say, me, I don't have money, I don't have any property, I'm not rich. But this person probably has time. And this person who has time, and maybe is hovering that time here in church, where do we put that person? Thank you.
So as I call Mzee, I want to say in this church there are people who are faithful according to the treasury. They keep tithe and offering consistently. Some, you know, that one encourages the treasurer. So when we do that treasury work, you feel you feel inadequate. And I tell you, those people who do that, they never complain that why is the giving low? They never complain, why are you asking us to give? They never open their mouth. Those who make a lot of noise, they don't give. Mbona pesa inatumika hivi hivi? They don't give. So I'm asking, which money are you concerned about, surely? Which money are you concerned? So let us learn, let us give, and give the opportunity to the church to use it. We believe they will use it in the right way. And even if they don't use it in the right way, is that your problem? No. Haley had 2 sons. Is it 2 or 3? 2 or 3? I think they were 2 sons, 2 sons. And Samuel lived with those notorious sons. Actually, if it was today, if he was in high school with them, Samuel could likely be a very notorious boy. Do you know what they were doing? Apart from withholding the offerings, they were telling the ladies who were bringing the offerings that, I don't want to proceed there. Yeah, before you give your offerings, go and read the book of 1 Samuel. Those guys were doing terrible things. But people gave their offerings irrespective of, actually, before they pan it, they were selling them, can I cut a slice? I tasted. Something the Lord cannot allow. You first of all have to pan it. After panning it, there is a portion for these crooked boys. But then they took it first. And the Lord was so patient with them until they grew up, until they died with the father the same day. The Lord did not take action on them. What I'm trying to tell you, brethren, is that never ever withhold your tithe because it has been misused. Let the misuser carry his own cross. And of course he will. You know, you can turn things round by even giving more. I want to thank the church nowadays, that money is being, the chance, and please members, don't give us cash. Try to give M-Pesa. It becomes difficult. If somebody goes that M-Pesa, he will have gone through long processes. He might bribe the signatories. So don't give Nyachote at time. If you have time, please go and deposit your money or give them in M-Pesa. It becomes difficult. And who told you when that money goes to KCF, it cannot be misused? I'm not saying they're misusing. But are you sure they're not going to be misused? So let us give tithe the way we are giving the church budget. Let the treasurer try his best to cut them, and let the Lord bless those who have given and punish those who have done wrong. Of course, it is not easy to. I don't want to mention punishment. I think the Lord knows what to do with those who have done. Let the Lord bless. Let the Lord bless those who have given. The rest, He knows what to do with them. Mzee Karibu. Yes. Prayer. Okay. Yeah. We don't pray, actually. Yeah. So please, and in fact, Pastor is saying, in fact, the pardon, the greatest pardon, let me ask the Elders' Council, can you pray for the offering of this church in your council? Can you dedicate? And then try to see how you can cascade that prayer to the prayer ministry. Let people pray for giving in this church. And we can see a difference. In fact, the Lord is not going to keep quiet when the faithful are doing something. He will not. Karibu Elder Ruot, you can take the program further.
Thank you, Daktari. We have come to the end of our session today. We are very grateful for the presentation. And the only sad part is that we are few. I wish we were many, because this session was not meant for church workers only. It's Vespers. So we were all meant to be here as church workers and as church members. So I now welcome our pastor to give us a closing prayer, and then we'll be able to leave. Pastor, may you lead us in prayer as we leave and dismiss us.
Can we all stand? Baba wa mbinguni, tunapenda kulitukuza jina lako kwa nafasi hii ambayo umetupatia kuketi miguuni pako, nawe ukiwa mwalimu wetu, ukimtumia mtumishi wako ambaye amenena nasi. Ili swala la wakili ni swala ambalo kwa wengi hawaja lifahamu, hawajaona umuhimu kwa nini waweze kuwa mawakili. Lakini kwa sababu umetufundisha leo, hata kama tuko wachache kiasi hiki, lakini kawaida uhuisho huanza na mtu mmoja, ndiposa kambukizwa mwingine. Basi sisi ambao tumepokea ujumbe huu siku ya leo na jioni hii, naomba uweze kuwa chemichemi ndani ya mioyo yetu, ili uweze kuwa manufaa kwetu na hata kwa wenzetu. Tuongoze, tuwe waaminifu kwako kwa kila jambo. Basi imefika wakati ambao tunaenda kuondoka hapa. Kwa karibu na mbali, tunaomba neema yako ya usafiri iweze kuandamana nasi. Tuwajalie majalio ya kesho kuwa hapa tena, tutazidi kulitukuza jina lako. Yule ambaye ametuletea fundisho hili, endelea kumbariki, ili wakati mwingine apate nafasi ya kuweza kusimama mbele zetu na kunena yale mapenzi yako. Uwe nasi, kwa tunaomba kwa imani na Kristo ambaye Bwana mkozi wa maisha yetu. Amen.
Thank you. We are free to leave, and may you have a blessed night. And also tomorrow, let us remember to tune in to the morning devotion program. Thank you. If we can keep time tomorrow for the evening training, that will be very good. Thank you. May God bless you.